Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. My name is Reese, and I'll be a moderator for today. We're going to get started in a couple of minutes. Once we hit top of the hour, we're just waiting so everyone has a chance to join. If you haven't done so already, please do register for today's session. There is a link to do so in the chat now. You can also scan the QR code that's on the screen. And you can also head over to datacamp.com/webinars, where you'll find this session, as well as all of our future sessions as well. You may already know this if you've attended a session of ours recently, but we do have our flagship virtual conference coming up next week, and that is DataCamp Radar, where we're going to be talking about the intersection of AI and humans working together. So if you haven't done so already, please do register for that as well. I'll be posting a link to do so very shortly, and we'll also put up a QR code as well on screen at some point during the session. So yeah, if you want to do that, or you can Google DataCamp Radar, and it'll likely be the first hit. So yeah, make sure you register for this session. Make sure you sign up for DataCamp Radar, and also check out the other campaigns that we've got coming up. Namely, we're going to be working on AI-powered Python for beginners, and we've also got a campaign coming up mid-April that is all around Anthropic, but that will be released and shared with you very shortly. But I'm just giving you a sneak peek on that one. Back to today. So yeah, please make sure you register. If you've already registered, you will have got reminder emails notifying you about the setup info and the data set that we're going to be working with today. If you haven't had a chance to look at those, check out the link in the video description. I'll also be sharing a link to the resources document, which will link to the setup info document in the chat now. So have a look there. Essentially, what you'll need is access to Copilot and be able to use Microsoft Excel as well. We also have the slides that we're going to be covering today in the resources, so check those out. But again, if you miss anything, make sure you register for the session, and we can send you everything along with the recording as well. If you have any questions at any point throughout the session, let us know in the chat. We are going to be running through your questions for the last 10 minutes of the session, so make sure you stick around for that. Cool. I will repeat these messages once more for anyone that's just joined. So hello, everyone. My name is Reese, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. We are just about to get started. If you haven't done so already, please do register for today's session. Also, next week, we are having our virtual conference, our flagship virtual conference, DataCamp Radar. So please do register for that one as well. I'll be posting a link to that very shortly, but we also have a link to it in the resources document too. As well, if you want to join in with us today, please check out the setup info and dataset link in the video description. There's also a link to it in the resources document that I've shared in the chat as well. So have a look at the links in there. And if you want to join in with us today, then have a look at the setup info. There's going to be a little bit of time at the start of the session for you to get that sorted, but hopefully you've done it already. And with that, I think I'll hand over to our host for today's session, Richie. Richie, please take it away.
Hi there, data scamps and data champs. This is Richie. I'm very excited for this session. So today we're going to be mixing old technology and new technology. So Excel has been perhaps the most popular data analysis tool for almost 3 decades now. And the Copilot AI assistant provides a modern way to interact with it. So we've been playing around with both technologies, and we're going to be putting together a marketing funnel. So this tracks how people become customers. It's essentially one of the most common business intelligence tasks. And, well, essential for every business, so worth knowing about. Our guest is Laura Wiedel. She is the Senior Director of Lifecycle and Retention at DataCamp. Welcome, Laura. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Richie.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this session. So Laura manages the customer journey for DataCamp users. That means taking people from acquisition through to retention. So she's a data-driven marketing and communications executive. Before her time at DataCamp, Laura was director of retention at the food waste social impact company Too Good To Go. That actually sounds quite a fun place to work. I mean, do you get to eat leftovers a lot?
You do. It's much more appealing than you make it sound, but yes, there's a lot of food.
Nice, wonderful. Okay, I will let you take it away with teaching people about marketing funnels.
Perfect. I'm assuming you are seeing my screen. Perfect, excellent. Yeah, so using Excel and Copilot to build a marketing funnel, you hopefully got a license to Microsoft. If not, there's a trial available for 30 days. Other than that, the enablement to Copilot is necessary for this code along. And yeah, there's a practice file that you can download to follow along while I'm going through this. And if you do have a DataCamp account already, you're probably familiar with the Excel courses that we have available. Otherwise, highly encourage you to register and check them out. What we're going to do today, we're going to just quickly describe the setup. So how do we enable Copilot? It's going to be a quick one. Describing the data, we need to clean it, normalize it, and then merge it, basically. As you might have seen in the data, the workbook that I shared, it's 2 tables. And based on that, we're going to build the marketing funnel, and we're going to take 2 deep dives, one into the workout, the correlation of workouts with subscription, because we're looking at a workout app here, and a channel analysis. And in the end, we're just going to summarize and ship it. All right, let's hop into Excel right away. So as I mentioned before, we have 2 sheets, revenue data and event data. And for us to enable Copilot from home, you see the little icon already here. And if you do not see this icon here, that means it is not in agent mode. So you want to turn it on. There's this little burger menu that you can click. Maybe I'll just show that really quickly. Here you go. And then you can enable it. There you go. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to turn our data into tables. So just so you know, I got my prompts, or at least the majority of them, already pre-written, just so that you don't have to watch me struggle, since I'm the person that voice prompting was invented for. And with turning the data into tables, we just create more organization for Copilot. It gives clearer results, highly recommended by Microsoft. So that looks already pretty good. Good. And then let's just check as well the other sheet, and we're all set. Good. And then just for ourselves, I mean, usually you are the person that kind of pulls the data, so you do have a good idea of what's in there. But just to get everyone up to speed and also potentially correct Copilot if there are some discrepancies on what it is thinking this is, and it actually should be, I'm just asking it to describe the data in the workbook. So while that is going on, I'm already jumping ahead a little bit, since you can see the data. There are some inconsistencies, particularly here in the event date, and also in writing capitalization of the last touch source. We also have some empty cell values, which we need to clean in the next step. But let's see what Copilot came up with. So 2 related data sets appear to track a fitness wellness subscription service, describes number of rows, columns. It describes the values that are in there, so subscription type, annual, monthly, and the revenue amount. And on sheet 2, we get the revenue data. And last but not least, both tables are linked by user ID, so it makes that connection already. It shows what we're actually tracking here. And then it has a data quality note that says it has inconsistent date formats. But what it hasn't pointed out so far is actually the different capitalization of the last touch source. So as we are cleaning this, the first thing I'm going to do is check for a duplication of data by prompting it to find any entries of the exact same data in all columns in multiple rows. It seems like it's a little bit of work to crawl through both sheets. And here we go. So in the first revenue data sheet, there seems to be no issue. But then in the event data, we see some duplicates, 124 to be exact. It gives you some examples. So one thing also is to ideally not take it for granted, but actually check that Copilot has identified this correctly. So by here, it gives you already the rows. So this is a little bit of a random checkup to hop in and see that this is actually correct. What I'm going to do from here on is asking it to create a new sheet called Event Data Duplicates Removed, removing the found duplicates, but transferring all the other values in there. This way, I'm keeping my raw data intact. And actually, while it's doing that, I'm just giving this a color. So I have a little bit of orientation as we keep on creating new sheets. But basically, everything I'm going to do is going to happen on that event data side. It's going to now be working on the event data duplicates removed sheet, just so that whenever something happens, Copilot chokes, there's a mistake, I can go back to your original source and can retrace it. Okay, so it already flagged inconsistencies in that date range or the data on the event dates. I do want it to list all the consistencies, knowing that it missed one, but I also haven't prompted it to check for that yet. It is a bit of a larger job, takes a little bit of time. But once we have identified that, we want to create a new column, basically correcting that data. Here we go. Revenue data raw sheet seems to be tip top. There were no duplicates, and also the data seems to be very clean. But then on the event data, we see there is an issue with the formatting of the date, and then we also have inconsistent casing. The event types are consistent, class types are consistent, campaigns, no missing data and key fields, and then it ranks those according to the issue. So let's attend to the event date first. So what I'm asking is basically starting with the sheet that we newly created. Again, the raw data is completely untouched. We're creating a new column called event date clean next to the original column. The columns are referenced in brackets with all the values of the original column formatted as Excel serial dates, identical to the event date data in revenue data raw. So I basically just want to give it some more direction to say, okay, I want to match these or merge these two tables later on. So benefit of getting the same data format in is big. So therefore, do the exact same thing. Great. The column is already there. One more thing with how the data is presented. So we already have some serial numbers in here. It makes it extremely difficult, obviously, to do a random check whether this has been translated properly, unless you happen to know the serial numbers for the 26th of March, for example, which is why I would advise to change the date formatting later on, so you're able to actually do that check. Good. 100% converted. 0 errors in conversion. Like I said, ideally we'll be the judge of that. And then we can do some random checkups here. So see on the 20th, that all looks good. All right, we got one more, which is the last touch source. And similarly, we want to create a new column next to last touch source with the prefix clean. I could have spelled it out as well. And then standardizing the values to meta, organic, including organic search, affiliates, and Google paid search, including all variation of Google Ads. That is quite...
I don't understand.
Oh, sorry, that was my Google. So in this case, it might be safer and probably also easier to check. So in this worksheet, you have about, I think, 1,500 rows or something like that. So not too bad. But if you do have a massive spreadsheet, obviously, you might want to break it down one by one just to confirm that everything has been changed according to your prompt. And then you also don't have such a massive prompt at once. Good. It's been updated. All the variations of meta on our meta, organic, affiliates. All the trailing spaces have also been cleared from affiliates. So that should leave us, ideally, we can, again, just quickly check that. All meta is now meta. Very nice. Good. And similarly, these two we wanted to have named Google paid search, and that is also consistently the case. So that seems to have worked. Good. So now we have everything cleaned. You might want to insert a column here. And this event value is actually the workout time. And now I'm mixing my work with Copilot's work. And sometimes it's just quicker to just write it yourself than to prompt Copilot. So in this case, I just say, if this is blank, then insert 0, and otherwise insert the value from here. And now I have this new column, and I could do the exact same thing for this one. Just want to call class type clean. And we do a similar if function. If this one is blank, then we want an I, otherwise give me that value. Here we go. Good. Before we move on, just confirming with Copilot that there are no more inconsistencies here. So ideally, I would just do another check to ask, are there any more inconsistencies? Hopefully, we're actually good to move on. This takes significantly more time. Here we go. A date mismatch was found between revenue and event date. The event date clean values in the event data do not match the event date values in the revenue data for subscription records, even for the same user ID and subscription time. Here it shows some discrepancy of the revenue data and the event data, some sample mismatches, and then it describes the root cause. It shows that in the event data contained ambiguous text dates and different formatting. The conversion formula interpreted the format, but some dates may have been in a different format, causing the incorrect conversion. So in this case, it recommends the date conversion issues stem from the original ambiguous date formats, cross-reference with the revenue data to identify the correct dates, or obtain clarification on the original dates format. So there you have two options. I'm going to go with option 1. Actually, I don't know. Yep. Obviously, you can ask it in this scenario to create a sheet with the mismatching dates with the user ID and so on, and you can go back and try to identify where the root cause is, in the sense that you go back to the actual source of the data and check. Okay, so while it is doing this, and I believe this is actually something that might be at the issue of the raw data that I have delivered. The next step that we have is to transfer our clean data into another sheet. And once we have managed to do that, all right, so here, and that's what I said earlier, I think that has to do with the raw data that I have delivered. It's not an issue of the formatting, it's actually an issue of the raw data. So here it created a cross-reference of the different matches, exact match, mismatch. And it even provides a recommendation here. So validate against the original source system if needed. So in this case, I'm going to ask it, well, it already created an overview of these different mismatches, and you can therefore basically go in and validate the dates. In this case, in order to move on with this was not a planned inconsistency, unfortunately, but we're just going to transfer the remaining data. So remove the user ID with mismatching event dates from the table and create in a new sheet called event data cleaned. That way we can at least continue good. So this is our next sheet that we're going to continue working with. And in this sheet, we're gonna use the data user ID, event date. Oh, sorry, I jumped on this one. We want to transfer the right columns into a different sheet. So our clean columns, we're going to create another sheet, event and revenue data, and copy over the column user ID, event date cleaned, event type, class type, worker time, last touch source cleaned, and last touch campaign from, and we now renamed it, from data deduped clean. So creating one more sheet, and we already called it event and revenue data because we want to add basically the data from our revenue data raw sheet from here. So when we're looking at the data here, let's get a little bit small, apologies for that. When we look at the data here, we actually have subscription data and renewal data and a subscription type, whereas in the event data, we have an event type that is either annual subscription or monthly subscription. If I find one, there you go, yeah. But no renewal events of any sort. So therefore, we need to merge this. So now we have our event data deduplicated, cleaned all in here. Now we want to merge it using, this would be a VLOOKUP, actually an XLOOKUP, because we want to match based on the user ID, the event date. We want to match the data from the revenue type, the subscription type, sorry for that, and revenue amount from that raw data, revenue raw data sheet. To the event type being either annual subscription or monthly subscription. So just to clarify what I've just done here, all the columns are referenced with brackets and then the values being annual subscription and monthly subscription. In our sheet, what that means is basically that we're gonna get data from here, which is it a renewal? Is it monthly or annual? We get added here. It already added those columns. So we get the revenue type here, the subscription type, and the revenue amount. Yeah. So in order to, again, confirm that this is correct, we would basically look up the user ID, go into our revenue data raw sheet, and confirm that this is actually the right revenue type, subscription type, and revenue amount. And then on the next step, one more thing in the sheet is to add a column called event type all, copying over the data from the column event type, but if annual subscription or monthly subscription, fill in the data from the column revenue type instead. So basically what I want is I want to replace my annual subscription, my monthly subscription with just the value new subscription, since I now have a different column that actually tells me how long that subscription is lasting. And after we do have that, we can actually move on to building the pivot table, which will then allow us to build our marketing funnel. Still not quite there.
All right, so I actually have a question about workflows here. So
Mhm.
one thing I've noticed, like with Copilot, is it takes a few minutes thinking often, and I don't know how you deal with these waits. Like, how do you
Mm.
change your workflow to cope with this? Because it seems like in order to not just be sat around like for annoyingly short pauses each time, you got to be able to switch to something else. Have you found a way to deal with this?
Um, to be honest, I think the best way to do this is probably to think of the next prompt already, because you obviously need to move on after this. Um, Other than that, I also think just summarizing. Well, usually you don't just build an Excel. Obviously, now we're kind of waiting on a point where we don't have any insights that we can review necessarily. But since we had some issues with dates that were unaligned, I'd probably work on that, trying to figure out where's the issue in the raw data. If I already have some insights, I probably would start building, some documentation, some deck, whatsoever, that starts translating this analysis into something presentable.
Okay, so yeah, I like the idea of like kind of figuring out what the next step is going to be, so you can kind of queue stuff up already. Um, I guess the other thing is because there are now like at least three different ways of working with Excel. So you can either write formulas, or you can use the point and click interface, and now there's Copilot as well. Do you have a sense of like what sort of tasks you want to do with each of the three interfaces? Like when do you choose one or the other?
Um, I guess to be honest, as I mean, personal preference, probably to some degree, right? I do think most people do have, a personal preference what they like to work with. Um, Also, the raw data set probably also determines that to some degree, as in how big is it, what are you dealing with? Yeah, I guess those would be my decision criteria.
Okay, so I suppose it depends, yeah, how complicated the task is and whether, like, do you actually know what the formula is you need to type? Because if you've got to go
Exactly.
and look up the formula yourself, that's going to slow you down. Whereas if
Exactly.
you know it, then it's probably quickest to just type it yourself. Um, okay, and do you have a sense of how complicated a problem Copilot can solve in one go in this? Like, is it best to do like simple prompts where it's like just like, create one new column or like do one small calculation, or you go for like longer, more abstract things?
You can go more abstract. The good thing is that you don't have to necessarily figure it out yourself as well, as in you don't have to necessarily uh, Google for formulas or anything or look at a cheat sheet. You can actually ask it what the best way of solving this is, and it basically breaks it down step by step. And then, yeah, going along those steps usually helps. Also, with this loading time right now, I do, since I have prompted it previously with that, it takes significantly longer than what I've previously experienced. So it might be as well a Wi-Fi connective issue of some sort right now. Um, but I haven't seen it struggling with like a standard Excel formula combination so far. It handles those very smoothly.
Okay, that's good. So yeah, I've say I tried the equivalent with Gemini and Google Sheets, and that
Mhm,
gets stuck on like anything that's kind of non-trivial. So I'm impressed that this is actually doing stuff. It's a little bit slow, but
mhm.
it is at least doing something. Actually, there's a question from the audience here, so
Mhm.
maybe we can take that while we're waiting for Copilot. Sue says, "Why using square brackets in column names? What happens if you don't?"
Yeah, it is just a recommendation by Microsoft to use square brackets for columns. What happens if you don't? If you actually have unique naming, nothing will most likely happen. But if you do have a lot of names that are somewhat repetitive, as in it could be a value um, within a data set, but it could also be column header, then you will probably run into inaccuracy. But I've had I've tried both, to be honest, with brackets and without brackets.
Yeah, it does the same with so Microsoft SQL Server, the database. You need to use square brackets around column names there, and I think especially if you've got spaces within the column
Exactly.
name, then
Mhm.
you got to use square brackets to let it know that it's all one entity.
Exactly. So I've just tried to relaunch this in a new chat, since it has been taking forever. Otherwise, I do have a sheet where I've done this prompt successfully. But yeah, here we go. Okay.
All right, I'll let you move on.
It seems like it choked. Okay, that looks much better. Good. Okay, just basically picking up from where we left off in case you forgot. I couldn't blame you, honestly. It's been a bit, but basically what we wanted to do is we wanted to no longer have these values of annual subscription or monthly subscription in the event type, but rather use from the revenue data raw the event type, which is either a new subscription with a subscription type being annual or a renewal. Let's see if we have some renewal data that I can display. No, okay. So in this case, probably this already gives us some insights that when we did the cross-reference, the renewals were most likely being kicked out. All right, so checking the actual results here, that translated everything nicely into this column. So we're good here. Okay, so finally we can actually move on to create our pivot table. This is just transferring. So now we still have event counts, right? We do need unique users. So doing this via creating a pivot table and a new sheet based on the data in event revenue data with rows being the user IDs, columns, event type all, what we just created, and values being the count of event type all. So when we send that, wonderful. Okay, so now we have our pivot table here. We see user with that ID has done one registration, but nothing else. And now we have this person, for example, who started a trial and who worked out 3 times, but didn't subscribe. So with that, we can now build our funnel, asking it to create a new sheet called marketing funnel, counting the number of unique user IDs in the pivot table with registration being noted in 0, and doing the same for trial start, workout, and new subscription. Good. So here we have already, it's not quite done yet, our funnel, so we can already see that it seems quite healthy on the top. And now we see quite a bit of drop off, but there's obviously a nicer way to visualize that. And again, here, I think, so I'm going to prompt Copilot, but obviously it would be very, very simple for you to calculate the funnel conversion rate by simply dividing all of these down the funnel events by the top funnel registration event. I got my prompt here. actually think, to be honest, just calculating this yourself in Excel would be quicker, to be honest. There we go. And then another thing is, so we already saw this in the total numbers, that the funnel gets extremely slim here. We can also prompt it to calculate the drop-off rate from stage to stage. So it's basically just two sides of the same coin, but yeah, getting that in different expressions. So we actually do see, when it says base, by the way, you can obviously, I would probably change that into 100%, because it's just weird if you do have, great. If you do have to visualize it in a bit, which we're going to do, base is not a value that it can work with. So here we basically just want to create a bar chart displaying the conversion rates. And I realized that it has a tendency to flip around these funnel stages, which is why I'm instructing it exactly how I want it to be. So I want the registrations at the top, and then basically a proper funnel. So the widest part at the top, the most narrow part at the bottom. And most people won't necessarily need the help of Copilot in analyzing the funnel. Oh, I see. So it picked up actually on something. All our renewal values were previously filtered out because they had mismatching event values. So this can actually be removed. Which will be interesting to see if it actually takes it right now from the revenue raw data, which originally had renewal events. So in this case, you will need to manually remove those, obviously, or prompt it. But that was based on a mistake in my prompt up here. And we have our funnel. I did not take my prompt. And the next thing would be, I will ask it to analyze the funnel health, although you probably, most people will see where the issue lies. Yeah. And here we go. This is exactly what I'm saying, which is why specificity really helps. is to now I would need to reorder basically the series or prompt it to start with registration and change that. For the sake of time, I'm going to leave that for now. Ask it to analyze the funnel health. It's going to generate some insights that I like to then just copy into this sheet as a kind of like a milestone that you can then later on reference. We do have one more thing to look at, which is basically checking if workout time correlates with subscription likelihood. There we go. Copilot doesn't have a very good sense of aesthetics, as in it will most certainly put any written insights behind a graph. So yeah, here you have a little bit of an overview over the key metrics, and it identifies the biggest revenue opportunities already. So obviously it says an 8% an industry benchmark would be 8% plus, which is also interesting. Obviously, when you're working with this, these would need to be confirmed. Generally, I wouldn't take them for granted. So now we have that, and obviously the next question would be, okay, how can we influence that? It would be, okay, workout time to subscription. Do these people just simply not work out enough, as in use our product enough? Which is why we would want to look at, is there a relationship between the workout time and the subscription conversion rate? So we're going to create one more pivot table. We're going to reference the exact same event and revenue data table. We're building a pivot table in a sheet called workout data, with rows being the user ID, columns the class type, event type all as a filter, and we're setting that to workout, and then the value is the sum of the workout time. So here we see the different classes, and now we see the total amount being worked out by the different users. Yet now we want to look at if actually, we basically just need the individual user's workout time. So I want to use that in a new sheet that I'm then cross-referencing with the subscription. So I'm creating a new sheet called workout time subscription to display the number of user IDs per sum of workout time. So I'm actually looking at, okay, so for 1 minute, how many users do we have? So this is basically the grand total. Just to see that distribution. Here we go. We see that the lowest sum, it's not quite done yet, but it seems like the lowest amount of minutes someone can have worked out within our sample users is 50 minutes. And then that goes all the way down. This is the grand total, which we can delete once it is completed, to 309. And again, confirming that basically. So we already said we might want to just look at maybe the count if 15 minutes, count if in this range, The criteria is 15. Ooh, not up here. And it comes out with 8. So that's a good way to just confirm, actually, this is not rubbish. That fits. And then in the next step, we want to basically map the distribution in a graph to look at how does it look in a distribution. So based on the data in this sheet, at a bar chart with x-axis sum of worker time and y-axis number of user IDs, and the series is number of user IDs. Okay. It added one more series here where I need to prompt it to remove the series sum of workout time from the graph. Hopefully that will fix it. So looking at this, we already see that there's definitely some sort of cliff around between the 55 and the 61 minutes. Here we go. This looks much better. So there's something around that 1 hour mark that seems to, where people usually cluster around. And then the one thing that I want to ask is how do I basically cluster those? Like based on this distribution, what are good ranges to cluster into high, medium, and low workout pensum groups? Then once we have that, it will give us a recommended clustering. So this is low, medium, high. We have a very equal tercile-based distribution, or there is behavioral-based natural breaking points, within that range, it even recommends the behavioral-based. This aligns with the typical fitness app behavior. So in the end, I think this is where you pull your experience and knowledge that you have from within the business to make a call on this. So in this case, I'll need to define that. I want to create another sheet based on the user IDs from the workout table, the pivot table workout data, and a column called workout time total with the value in grand total from the same sheet. So basically, I'm just taking this column here, and I'm taking column A and actually G, and I'm going to put that into another sheet where I am going to classify every user as high, medium, or low. So we're keeping that here. Good. Don't have this one. Now, based on the option 1 of workout and some classification, enter a column called workout group, and enter high, medium, or low based on their total sum of workout minutes.
All right, we're just coming up to time, so we'll carry on for a little bit longer to finish the last task here. For everyone from the audience ashes off. So if you need to jump, then please do come back for the last few minutes to watch it on the recording. We'll send that out next day or two. Tomorrow we've got a session on data visualization for data storytelling. So of course, data storytelling is how you provide a narrative with your results. We're going to focus on the data visualization side of things. And then in a week's time on Wednesday, of course, as Reese mentioned, we've got the Radar Virtual Conference. It's one of my biggest events of the year. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then moving into April, we've got a whole week of getting started with AI-assisted Python. So please do check out the upcoming webinars, come back for those, and definitely sign up for Radar. All right, Laura, I'll let you go through, do the sort of final task, and then we maybe take time for 1 or 2 questions.
Definitely will do. It's actually one more prompt. Probably we need to merge the subscription data. So from the pivot table, event types, reference the event, new subscription, and enter it in a new column in workout time. I believe that's the full name of the sheet, 2. All right. Good. Now we know the people who have actually subscribed as well. So the next step is to create a table clustering the number of users in each workout time category. And the amount of subscriptions of that group. So again, this one you could basically then validate if it's saying, okay, people in the workout group, high, there we go, have 85 subscriptions. The way to validate that is to just filter here and then check for that. Good. And then again, you can ask it basically. So we already see the subscription rate is significantly higher here. So meaning that we went with that percentile to say we need to move people obviously to high. The insights from this clustering, insight generation, and basically you get your, in this case, I'll just need to take a peek as well where we decided on the clustering. Here we go. It even mentions that. Cool. There's a clear correlation. More workouts, higher conversion. So once we're actually moving from over 50 minutes, from 51 to 58, it doubles. And then there's another step. Once we reach 86, it more than doubles one more time. So that would basically be a way strategically to say, here we have our marketing funnel here. We have a clear bottleneck in a monetization. The way to work with this is to move people to 86 minutes of working out, basically. And then beyond that, obviously, you can look at the class types and so on and so forth with a similar structure, creating a pivot table and then creating the correlation between revenue data and the event data. And that's about it.
All right, wonderful stuff. That's very cool. And I have to say, it just seemed like a nice alternative way of working here. The fact that like you don't need to like worry so much about the nitty gritty of like what's going into a particular formula or what the micro task is you're trying to solve. You can just go high level. Well, this is the thing I'm trying to achieve, and let like Copilot figure out all the details. All right. So I guess one more question is: so we've been using Copilot from inside Excel. Most LLMs now will also deal with spreadsheet files, so you have got an opportunity to just like upload your spreadsheet to Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or any of these others, and or I guess even like the standalone Copilot, and say, "Can you do something there?" Like, do you have a sense of like which way around like it is better to work?
With uploading, letting Claude, ChatGPT, all the very smart tools handle it as the validation of it. So therefore, I mean, even just in this marketing funnel creation and then looking at the workout groups, I have created, I can't even count how many sheets, right? And when you break it down, you can at least validate, is that true? Whereas if you using Claude, it usually gives you a nice little wrapped version that you can ship, but there's actually no way of confirming. Which I would say, if you do have a hunch, if you have some good, you already know what the data says, you just have interpretation issues or something, then it's great. Otherwise, you might run the risk that there's a bit of hallucination going on.
Yeah. So it's a good the trade-off in that they're more powerful models than what's running with the Copilot inside Excel, so you can do more complicated tasks in theory, but then having that feedback loop to visually inspect the spreadsheet, you've probably got to then
Then you
ask
need
it
to
to create
unpack
a
it.
new spreadsheet file and then go and open it up in Excel and then go back to your model. So I can see how that's much more of a pain. So it is again, it's weird workflow loops and we're sort of that in between situation where like Copilot inside Excel is a bit slower, but you have the tighter feedback loop, and so you're probably gonna have to like play around with like what workflows work best for different situations.
Yeah, certainly. It's great for brainstorming as well to look at how do I best solve this. So I probably would use it for that. Same with insight generation. I also think it's great. But if you're really, really reliant on something being 100% correct, you probably want to be able to actually validate that.
Okay, yeah, actually, that leads me to one last question before we wrap up then is when things go wrong, I mean, we saw it even here that it doesn't always get the answer right first time. Like, what are you, how do you deal with occasional failures and like making sure that you are getting that quality control there? So if there's an error, you do spot it and you can fix it.
Mm. Yeah, I hoped I can share a little bit on at every step. We'll always do a little bit of a validation. I guess it's more about like breaking down, definitely keeping raw data untouched so you can always go back. So if everything falls apart, you probably have to start from scratch, but you haven't compromised your raw data. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is creating a different sheet, a different excerpt of your data on every step. So that worst case scenario, something breaks, you go one step back instead of starting completely new. And yeah, you do have obviously your formulas, so you can check, like even just with little counts and all these kind of things. Otherwise, I had scenarios where I did ask it, but that number is off from that number, what's going on, and then it corrects itself. So you need to be switched on, right? You can't just lean back and let it do the work.
Can't just outsource your entire brain to the AI. You do actually still have to
know.
think. Okay. No, I do really like that point about like, don't let it mangle like your original data source. If you got raw data in there, then you want to be working on a copy. So if it if it messes it all up, you just not lost your data. Yeah, that just seemed like a good, the safe option. Okay, all right. With that, we are well past time. So thank you so much, Laura. That was very cool stuff. Very much enjoy that. Thank you to everyone in the audience who showed up today. Please do come back tomorrow for our storytelling session. Please do come back next week for Radar. I hope to see you all.